Good evening and welcome to Generation Movie on a Monday night. My name is JW Colwell. I'm joined by my good friend and very smart film buff from Filmbuff Online, Rich Drees. Welcome to the show on a Monday night. Rich, how you doing before we get to housekeeping and whatnot? How are you?
I'm doing A-okay. Did some cleaning around the old apartment here this evening.
The homestead?
The homestead. Went through a pile of notes for stories I had already written and was like, I don't need this shit. And I have like 2 grocery bags full of garbage right now. I feel very accomplished. So, I feel like I've done something today. So, I may doze off in the middle of this.
I do that every 3 months where I go through the one drawer that I'm responsible for in the entire house. And if we get through it and I clean it out and I feel good about myself, I still shine it off like, ooh, good job. Okay. Welcome to the show tonight. Thank you for joining us. Good evening, Joe Ridgely. Good evening to all. We appreciate you're here. We are the Indie Escape Network. This is Generation Movie. We are a place where creatives unite. And I can't think, we do shows live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. We are also available on all of the places where you listen, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, all of those places. And we also have other shows. So we have a show called Generation Movies. That's the show you happen to be watching right now. It's on Monday nights at 9 with usually Rich and I. And we do movie history. We pick one movie a week. We do a deep dive on it. We figure it out and look at it from different perspectives of the unique time frame that it's in and when it, how it lands now. We also have another show called Loud and Nerdy, which is more of a friend show. It's like a bunch of people getting together and kind of gabbing about what's happening on Lanterns, which, by the way, spectacular second episode. All of the people who tuned out after episode 1, so sorry for you. I'm so sorry for you that you tuned out because episode 2 was fantastic. But Loud Nerdy is where we would discuss something like that with me and my good friend Jerry Kimura and Raven, the delightfully difficult female co-host we have. Symbolistic Cynicism is on Wednesday nights when Gabe gets a guest. He has great guests. The last guest he had was Alex Asoe. She's in a lot of movies, Post-Exorcist, several of the Mike Flanagan horror films. Fantastic guest. She had a lot of cool stories. She may have given us way too much information, but Gabe gets great guests. He has really good connections in the horror community. And then our other show, Technical Defects, Ryan West, Joe Ridgely, every other Thursday. Again, more of a friend show, tech, toys, movies, whatever hits the fancies of the boys that night. And we may have some other shows coming. But those are bigger announcements for another day. New Release Friday is JW the Movie Guy, me, and you, and recently Rich Drees. And we look at new movies that are opening whatever week that we're doing it. And it's usually every Friday. So we are going to do a little bit of a one tonight, a little jump, get a jump. Because Rich has had this one on me for 2 weeks. Son of a bitch.
I'm so excited for you to see this too.
I have seen it.
You were springing this on me. I did not know we were going to talk about this.
I understand this. I've seen it. I am going to say something to you that I have not said yet to anybody, but we'll talk about it more on Friday because we're going to do a deep dive. We're just going to hit it ever so briefly here. I think it's the greatest reboot of IP material ever done.
Wow, that is some strong.
And I really feel it because it hits everything correctly. Mm-hmm. So Coyote versus Acme is
Coyote versus Ugly.
Coyote versus Ugly.
Coyote
you know what it is. You know what it is. Anyway, Coyote Ugly. But Coyote versus Acme hit all of my nostalgia loving brain sensors, and then also took characters and put them in different light. And actually had a fresh take on the Looney Tunes that we haven't had in quite some time. And I just love this movie. I'm going to scream from the rooftops. Everybody should see this movie. Everybody should have little signs that they carry around whenever they're talking, whenever they don't want to say anything bad out loud. They can just hold up a sign. Of course, you have a limited number of signs, so you have to be careful. Yes. But it's such a good movie, and it's got such a good heart.
Now, do you see why I praised your poster choice last Friday?
Yeah, no, I get it. I like.
Did you know the absolute implication in the terms of we're dancing around the.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about it until Friday. I don't want to talk until more people get a chance to see it. But what I will say is, Coyote versus Acme is one of the films of the year. I expect it to win Best Animated Movie. Like I don't
think it qualifies.
You sure it doesn't qualify? It's got a lot of animation in it, Rich.
There's a lot of live action there too.
We're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to check the rulebook on that one. We'll get back to you. Why couldn't we make a special case for this movie? What Forte is like an animated character. We can work this. Like I said, I think it's
a while since the Academy's given out a special achievement Oscar.
Yeah, I don't care what we need to do. I want people to go see it in theaters. I want people to understand that the pencil pusher that's running Warner Brothers has no concept of what good movies are. That's why we shouldn't trust him with any kind of business decision whatsoever, ever again. He should never be trusted with anything ever again. And I just want to say that it's so creative, so well done. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. Like I came out of it just fucking beaming. And it might have been because the crowd I was with was hyped and they were laughing at all the jokes and they got all the jokes. And so it's nice when you're in a theater where you're with like-minded people who get the jokes. But they come so fast and furious that like it is a real movie that is going to demand to be seen again over and over. And I can see me going back to watch it. It's very pleasant. And like I said, I never thought we'd be at the end of 2026 rooting for a goddamn coyote to catch a goddamn bird, but here we are. And I really loved it. I loved it more than anything.
I had a feeling you were going to totally glom onto it the way you have, and the way I have. It takes the one thing I've really hated about the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner shorts, the absolute repetition of the same joke just done in different
and gives it meaning. That's why it's
meaning, its heart,
and that's why it's one of the greatest IPs ever. It's one of the greatest reboots of an IP ever. Because again, we see more than just the Coyote and the Roadrunner. Like I said, I came out of it beaming. I came out of it, there's a scientist named after one of my favorite character actors from the 40s. I don't want to give anything away.
Animated character too, who we see.
I know, but I'm just telling you, it's just one of the most pleasant surprises of the year. Not that it was a surprise, but the idea that it is so good, that it is Coyote vs. Acme is so good that we're going to have to. First off, those people that are responsible for it, they should be handed the keys to the Looney Tunes animation, because I feel like they can make 3 or 4 movies just on their creativity alone. Like this one is creative. I feel we could do other things, but they hit a lot of characters in this. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but I don't think you could I think you could have other movies from these people because they get the IP, they get Looney Tunes, they get the joke. And so I hope everybody goes to see it. I want to make $100 million, not just for Ketchup, the company that picked it up, but for everybody else. Also, I love. There's a thing at the end, a thank you to everybody who spoke out, who held up signs, who did everything to make sure that this movie could be seen on a big screen. I feel like you and I were at the forefront of that as well. Like we've been talking about this movie for almost a year and a half at least. And about how bad Zaslav is as the head of Warner Brothers. So I just I can't talk about.
I tend to believe that an all-loving, all-forgiving supreme being would not have a place of eternal damnation and torment. But I'm willing to let her make an exception or two for people at Warner Brothers who thought this movie should be on a shelf and no one should ever see it.
I think it was one person. I don't think it was more than one.
But I'm sure there were some people
I
who were
can't
like,
believe there is one
idea.
shocking thing about it. I can't believe Gunn allowed this to happen. Like
Guns. He had the. He didn't have the juice.
No, but I think if somebody's taking over your DC universe, I think somebody like he might have been able to, but maybe he just didn't want to put any bullets in the chamber, which is a mistake. Gabe says, thanks, JW. He says, haha. I said, Coda vs. Acme is genius content in the first place. Can't wait to see it. It's not just the concept. It's genius. It's not just the concept. It's the actual undertaking of the film. It's, again, one of the best films of the year. Like, I am going to stand by this. The two I will die on a hill for this year are Coyote. Like, again, I like a bunch of movies. Don't get me wrong. But the two I will die on a hill and fight with people about and be like, oh, wow, how could you like that? You're a 52-year-old man. I will die on a hill for the Sheep Detectives. I will die on a hill for Coyote versus Acme. I will die on a hill where we need whimsy in our lives and we need whimsy in our movie theaters. And Coyote versus Acme and the Sheep Detectives deliver both in spades. And they're my jam. They're my kind of jam. They're movies I just really, really love this year. Okay. Yeah. Other news. It was a weekend of the box office, so that means Spider-Man was number one. This is getting a bit repetitive. I'm trying to. How do you make it exciting after 7 weeks? 6 weeks, whatever it is. Spider-Man, Brand New Day, 39 million, only down 45% from last week. And again, this is going to get a little bit dustier in the next couple of weeks as more schools go back and everything. But right now, as we speak, Richard, 854 domestic box office, 1.3 billion at the international box office, 2.2 billion. It's fourth all-time domestic. It is third all-time total worldwide gross. It is how does one say it is a rare it's like it's Rosetta Stone for filmmakers and people like make good movies about characters everybody loves, and all of a sudden box offices are packed, theaters are packed. It goes on for days, months, weeks, and like I said, 39 only down 45%. That's fucking insane, Rich.
It's never had a more than 50% drop, has it?
No. And mainly because everything's kind of gotten in its way. Nothing's gotten in its way. So what happened, and it's really kind of, and again, when I say it's Rosetta Stone, not only is it a Rosetta Stone, make good movies about characters people love, Rosetta Stone, Spider-Man Brand New Day, but also in your planning for release schedules, don't release everything on top of each other. Part of the reason that we're talking about Spider-Man, we're talking about the Odyssey dominating the box office at the end of the summer here, is they were given clearance, right? Because the Odyssey is third this week, down 17%, $19 million in its 38th day of release. And that movie, again, 539 domestic, 912 international, $1.45 billion. Also becomes the highest grossing R-rated film of all time, unseating Deadpool and Wolverine. But both of these movies were given a wide berth. And one of the things you and I talked about at the beginning of the summer, all of the movies were on top of each other. And essentially they were on top of each other to stay out of the way of these two movies. And now that these two movies...
Supernova was still stuck in there and got demolished. I mean,
everything was on top. Well, no, that's what I was saying. Everything was on top of each other.
But everything done at least a little bit better than it.
Yeah, well, everything was these movies were given wide berth, right? Everything stayed out of the way of the Odyssey. Everything stayed out of the way of Spider-Man, and everything's given a wide berth. And it's made movie going cool again. And all of a sudden we're gonna have a $4 billion summer. All of a sudden we have a $10 billion year is within reach, especially with the two behemoths sitting on December 17th. We got Dune, and we have Doomsday. Although I will tell you, can I give you a pet peeve for this week that I'm a little bit pissed off for?
Peeve away.
If we are going to have movie subscription services like my AMC A-list, which I love, if we're going to do that, and you have a certain number allotment of movies you can get every week, and movies you can put tickets in for, I think if a movie theater or movie is going to release tickets 6 months in advance, I think we should get extra allotments. That's just how I feel. I think we should look into this. I think it's like a long range release plus your 4 regular releases is the way to go. I'm gonna send this to A-List and any of these other subscription theater services. I think if we're gonna have movies, I don't want to have to hold my account for 6 months, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've heard that from other people who have AMC A-List. I have no AMC nearby, so I am stuck with Cinemark's movie, whatever it is, movie rewards or whatever they call it. But it's fine. Good. It's still good. It's still good. I got 3 more visits, and then I get up to the next level of rewards for the for the remainder.
I think it's crazy. I think it's nuts to have to sit a movie. I think it's nuts to have to sit a movie 6 months in your thing, and it was fine when it was just Doomsday, but now it's Dune and Doomsday have both released tickets. So now I have 2 slots I have to hold on to for 6 months. It's ridiculous. Am I frozen? No, okay. But yeah, I just think it's ridiculous, and I think we need to fix it. I don't care about trying to buy tickets 6 months in advance, but I just think it defeats the purpose of having a subscription service if I can't get tickets to the movies that are releasing tickets 6 months in advance. And it was fine. Like I said, it was fine up until the last week when they released the Dune tickets. And now I have 2 movies sitting on my goddamn AMC list that are just sitting there. And you can't give them up because I got good seats for some things. Anyway, just a pet peeve.
I'm trying to organize a group of friends for these upcoming things. The Star Trek weekend that's going to be going on over Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
The End Game Encore at the end of September. And boy, oh boy, is it like herding cats with these people.
Well, I just talked about this with somebody. We had old friends over for Kel's birthday. It was Kel's happy birthday, by the way, babe.
Happy birthday, Kelly.
Yeah, she's beautiful, and she was her birthday on Saturday. But we had friends over, and what happened was I used to get the tickets for all the families and the friends and everybody, and then I stopped doing it because it was deteriorating my health, and just trying to track people down, getting tickets for people, worrying about that, getting money, getting paid, all of those things. And then what happened was I was talking to the young man who took it over, and now he's like, I've given
seating together and stuff, but
sometimes
it was like,
I'll see you on the way out is sometimes, but I gave it up, and the person who took it over was a young man that was visiting us with his mom and dad, and he was like, this is bullshit. This is hard. You never told me it was this hard. I'm like, welcome to life, kid. Welcome to life. Buying tickets for people and getting people to pay for things on time in a timely fashion so that they can go to opening night of a big movie is like, as you say, Rich, herding cats. Not good at all.
Yeah.
What else? Okay, so other big release of the weekend, Insidious did very well. Not very well, but well enough and perfectly fine for a horror film. If we're talking about it, right? Insidious did 25 million. Budget is not as high as that, so budget is 18. So it's again, horror films are making money, and it did about 60 worldwide over the weekend. But everything I was trying to explain to people at the end of Oak Street and things, everything is getting crushed in the wake of these 2 movies that are out that have captured the zeitgeist. Like even a movie you and I like very much, Tony had a tough time getting going. It grossed $5 million, which is, again, that's one of the only movies it went up in theater count. So it's at $6 million total in its run, but it came in seventh. Mutiny, the new Jason Statham movie, came with $7.7 million. His movies are always box office. And actually, one of the interesting things I learned about Statham's movies today is that Statham's movies do incredibly better overseas than they do domestically. So they open here and they do okay, but then they go overseas and they just, whatever the budget is, he's guaranteed money for a studio.
I'm not surprised by that. Action
no,
films
he's an action
tend to
star.
travel fairly well because
his movies do too.
Dialogue. So
right,
like
I said, it's a movie very much,
and people can still plug in.
Yeah, it's a movie very much about kicking people in the knees. It is, it is what it is. We don't need
Jackie Chan star in the world.
That's what I mean. Like, and I respect Statham. I think Statham knows what he is, which is and actually he's kind of a throwback if you think about it. He's kind of like the last of his kind. He's like a throwback from like the John Wayne Western era to the '80s action star to, you know what I mean? Like he's a throwback in the sense that his movies don't make a ton of money, but they make enough money to make the next movie. And to keep him comfortable and happy and his fans happy. Like you never hear people coming out of a Jason Statham movie going, "Oh, I was just disappointed. I didn't get what I was looking for. I didn't get him, tying somebody to a car and throwing them off a bridge," which has happened in 2 of his movies in the last 5 years. I think he got it in his head that it's cool. Also, Fast and Furious came back this weekend. 3.1 million on 1,500 screens. Not great, not spectacular for a revival, right? So it kind of ends it. Spa Weekend was the only other new movie in the top 10 with $3.0 million.
Yeah.
And
it was fun. I think we talked about it on Friday.
Yeah.
I liked that it was, it's a movie that definitely passes the Bechdel test. It lets some women comic actors get out there and be as silly as some of the men's get to do.
People might not know what the Bechdel test is. Let's explain it for people watching the show.
Okay. The Bechdel test is basically just an idea that to pass the test, you have to have 2 female characters in a movie that have a dialogue or have an exchange, conversation, and it cannot be about one of the leading men or a man in the film. They are addressing each other just as 2 women,
2 people sitting at a table.
Yeah. They could be talking about their household budgets. They could be talking about I don't know, but this is they talking about their friendship.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. That was a dick. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm a dick. That was mean. That was a dick move on my part.
No, it's okay.
It's okay. You got to see Coyote versus Acme before me, so you deserve it.
Oh, fine. Fuck you.
Okay. See how that plays out. Okay, so we are one of the things we're doing. Also, not a lot of news. I don't know if there's anything you want to get to, but we are doing 86 movies that are celebrating a 40th anniversary. Because after all, this show started because of not 86 movies. No, we're doing 1986 movies. Sorry, that's just me being flippant. But we are doing that, and we're doing something a bit of a cult favorite tonight. We're doing Labyrinth, the Jim Henson directed fairy tale starring Jennifer Connelly, David Bowie, and a bunch of Jim Henson's creature creations. And I have not seen this movie in a long time, Rich.
Neither have I.
I'm going to say this to you. I'm going to say this early, not in a bad way, just in a I think I enjoyed it more when I was younger. I don't know why.
That's fair. That's fair.
I came out of it today. Like, we're going to talk about all the different, we're going to talk about production and box office, critical response, then and now legacy. But my initial reaction was, Labyrinth it's got amazing design. It's got incredible creatures. It's got Bowie. It's got a young Jennifer Connelly, and it's got right, and it's got a mildly interesting story, but it's also like it's razor thin. Like it is razor thin, and it relies a lot on a child in peril for a good portion of it.
Seeing as how this was co-written by Terry Jones, I suppose you could even say it's waffle thin.
Waffle thin.
But
waffle thin.
Yeah, no.
Jones, a member of Monty Python. But yeah, let's talk about it. But I'm gonna tell you, like, I came out of it today going, I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know that I would see it again. I don't know that I'd jump into it again, like maybe 5 years from now or something. Like when it celebrates its 45th. I don't know. I don't even know if I would do it then, to be honest.
About something about Henson or this or Jennifer Connelly, I might go back and rewatch it. But yeah,
I don't know what it was. We're going to talk about it, but I just
see this movie again.
Yeah, when we were talking about doing it, I was like, I would like to see Labyrinth again. I haven't seen it in a while. Let's do it. And now that I've chosen that, I'm like, I think we made a mistake, and we could have picked two other movies, like another movie that we would have had more fun with, and might actually be more deserving. Like, because this is definitely a cult film. Labyrinth is definitely a cult film that has its benefactors.
That's still worth
into the classroom about. Like always. Good job, Raven. You're going to detention tomorrow night. Anyway,
I think still, even if we're not totally connecting with the movie now as adults, I think that still has room for an interesting conversation. So I'm not upset that we picked this.
I'm ready to go. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about production. So this movie springs from the mind of Jim Henson. Screenplays by Terry Jones, stories by Dennis Lee and Jim Henson, and it's messy, right? Because it starts at like there are so many influences in the. Go ahead, you can start.
I was gonna say it. Yeah, it's messy. It's chaotic.
Henson's not really happy. Like
I don't think is at times, because some of the staging and stuff. This I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but like some of the staging of some of the action stuff is, just, especially like at the end, is just I'm pointing the camera in the general direction of what's happening. It was it was this
there.
I mean, there's so much imagination in. I'm jumping ahead to Chris.
We are. So let's do production first. But let's do production stories.
Henson, even from his beginning in the late 50s. Doing puppetry and stuff like that, he was always very interested in the fantasy genre. In 1962, he did a pilot for a series called Tales of the Tinker D, and it was kind of like a fairy tale kingdom. And Kermit introduced and did the outro, almost Rod Serling-esque, about these princes and princesses and stuff like that went on in this thing. I've seen the pilot. I think it's available out on YouTube if you take a look. And it's fascinating to see some early Henson stuff like that. And obviously, his fantasy interest is right there in the film he did before this, The Dark Crystal. The fantasy setting of the Land of Gorch segments that they did for Saturday Night Live in its first season.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's going into this like, okay, I'll just, slapdash some, fairy tale nonsense together. He kind of went into this, I have to believe, wanting to, tell a new kind of fairy story, a new kind of, fairy tale or fantasy story. And I don't know what happened along the way, but
Well, it's very much, it starts with him and Brian Froud, right? So
Yeah.
Brian Froud and him are sitting down. They're like, "Hey, we want to
Who
work
also
on this
designed
project." Yeah, he does a lot of the characters behind the scenes. And he basically, Froud gave him a picture. Started with a picture, a baby surrounded by goblins. We need to do a movie about goblins. And I'm like, and I guess Henson was fascinated by the concept that Froud brought to him and said, one of the great folklore things was that babies are stolen by goblins. Like, so when kids would get sick or babies would disappear or whatever in the Middle Ages, they blame goblins. And so Froud comes to him and says, "Hey, this is an idea." And then I think the funny thing is Henson's like, "Yeah, that sounds great. I don't want to do anything heavy like the Dark Crystal." And I'm like, okay. As I'm reading that today, right?
I have to remember too, at the time, they were doing Muppet movies. They had Fraggle Rock going at the same time. Henson was really pulled, in a lot of different directions, here in the mid 80s. So I can see where he would say,
well, and one of the things that comes across, one of the things that comes across in the stories behind the scenes are that Terry Jones writes the script, right? They come up with the script. He writes the script. They work with Dennis Lee on everything, right? And I was amazed at this story, right? Henson goes to Terry Jones to write the script because they just read Eric the Viking. I like Eric the Viking. You like Eric the Viking, and that is the sheer number of people who like Eric the Viking. And so when I read that today, I was like, holy shit. If you read Eric the Viking and thought Eric the Viking is a good basis to give somebody else more work, I question your reality. But then again, it's Jim Henson. It's Jim Henson's daughter, right? But then Jones delivers the script, and then Henson is surrounded by some of the most creative people in film history. George Lucas, Laura Phillips, Elaine May. And they all tinker with Jones's screenplay in some way. They all and they change a lot of the basis for the script. So one of the things that's a major change from the script is she, basically they come up with the idea that the Labyrinth is part of a story that she's reading as a kid. In Jones's original vision, the Goblin King can't allow anybody to get to his castle because that's where his heart is stored. Which, again, if you're producing a $25 million animated, or not animated, but Muppet based Jim Henson movie, is not maybe the best place to put on screen. So
I don't know. It's certainly a better idea.
It's definitely a better idea than a giant Escher painting, but we'll get there. But it's the best sequence in the movie. But I'm just saying, it's all similar things. There are pieces, there are times when you read about backstage stuff and it doesn't come across in the movie, and there are times when you read about backstage stuff after you watch a movie, Rich. And Labyrinth is one of those movies where you read about the backstage shit and you go, "Oh, that's why it's so jumbled." It's and every once in a while, what happens with movies like Labyrinth is because of the sheer amount and mass of imagination, creativity, it gets a pass. Henson, there's very few people who look at even the Jim Henson stuff that is unmitigated failure is still better than half the stuff that's kicking around Hollywood. Right.
Yeah,
and so
it still has fascinating bits, which,
it really does. It has fascinating, imaginative, imaginative is the word. And so, but I was reading about that. I'm like, it doesn't even get out of the station, this movie. There are people, redrafted scripts. Bowie read the original script from Terry Jones. Bowie being a big fan of Monty Python, because of course he is. And he reads the Terry Jones script. He gets the next set of scripts, and all of the humor that the Goblin King had is now gone. And it's one of the quotes that I have from Bowie was, we need to do a bit more to make the script more humorous. And so they start filming April 85. And
before Bowie even came on, though, do you know who was on their short list that they discussed? I don't know if they reached out to and were turned down, but hopefully they didn't even reach out to this person. Do you know who they were actually thinking about at one point for this?
Are you talking about the number of people they were asking for the Goblin King? If the one Goblin King had gotten picked, it could have been the most. It could be the most
horrific in hindsight.
Yeah, just bad. It would have been bad juju, man. So you're talking about Michael Jackson, of course. Yeah, you're talking about Michael, but there were other people. Like, it was all musicians. Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, Sting, Prince would have been an interesting one. I could see Prince, and Prince is actually Muppet size, so it would have been perfect.
And I recently have been watching some old Muppets Tonight, and Prince had an episode where he was the guest, and this was like his very serious symbol era. You know,
he was fantastic with the Muppets. He was absolutely fantastic.
He looked like he was having the best fucking time of his life. And
it's almost like, have you seen okay, I don't mean to jump out of Labyrinth for a second. Have you seen the video of Cookie Monster and Harrison Ford?
Oh my God. It belongs in a
one
museum.
Of the greatest things I've ever seen, Rich. Harrison Ford and the Cookie Monster are the team I've needed my entire life and didn't know I needed. But it's just, there's a whimsy to it. And one of the things I was thinking about while watching Labyrinth today was all of the whimsy that's that's in that moment with Ford and the Cookie Monster is not present in Labyrinth. There is no whimsy to be had.
Oh.
And like I said, it's really weird. Lead role for Sarah. Sarah had so many people that could have been not Jennifer Connelly. Helena Bonham Carter, Jane Krakowski, Yasmin Bleeth, Sarah Jessica Parker, Marissa Tomei, Laura Dern, Claudia Wells, Ali Sheedy, Maddie Corman, Mia Sara. Jennifer Connelly wins because she hit it off with Jim Henson. She was cast within a week. And the reason she was picked, whether you want to view it as creepy or not, is because she could act that kind of dawn twilight time between childhood and womanhood. No matter how you say that, it doesn't look good anywhere.
Well, I mean, that is the theme of this story.
Yeah, but it's but again, there's a much creepy vibe to it now than it ever was.
Well, yeah. Then you got Bowie and his enormous package.
Yeah, just giant codpiece. He could have been in a Batman movie in the 90s.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been like a weird sexual awakening thing. It could have been,
Muppets. That would have been something. Yeah. A couple comments from Raven. Do you think the thinness of the material leads to the hard hill it has to climb in addition to the cult following to the rumors of a remake? I don't think you remake this. I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough of a love affair with it where I think people might have a love affair with it, but if they did what happened to me today, and apparently what happened to you too, you have a love affair with it in your mind, and then you watch it and you realize that it's not really a love affair. It's a particular moment in your life that you saw something, right? It's not a love affair with the movie. It's where you were whenever you saw it. And it's kind of a weird thing. Really leave Haley in the changeling mythos and lore of Truthfully. It could have been nice if they did. Yeah, I agree with that. Prince would have been interesting. Would have been creepy. Michael Jackson would have been creepy in hindsight, but remember in the mid 80s, no creep factor. He's in Disney, right? He's starring in Disney. Captain EO at Disney. He's fine. It's Bowie coming onto it is an amazing thing. And then I don't know. It reads weird. So filming, as we go on a little bit, basically it's all Jim Henson Company people, veteran performers, Dave Getz, Steve Whitmer, some of the people you may recognize from the Goblin Corps are like a who's who of Star Wars characters: Kenny Baker, Warwick Davis, uh, people who are in Time Bandits.
Danny John Jules from Red Dwarf doing a couple of voices in there. I noticed this time around, sitting through the credits, which excited me. I was like, "Oh, Cat, cool."
Yeah.
Another thing I want to point out too, that some of those Muppet performers, the lead Muppet performers, got their names in the credits at the front of the movie.
Yeah,
alongside
yeah,
Jennifer
and they
Connelly.
deserve them. Like,
Yes,
they deserve them.
I like that kind of call out. And tangentially, some of the voice actors in Coyote versus Acme are also in the main credits.
So yeah, and also it'd be a crime to not mention Frank Oz, who was pulling double duty at the time because he was directing Little Shop of Horrors as well, which might be an interesting tidbit and something that may be coming up around Halloween. But Little Shop of Horrors was also being directed around the same time, so he was also helping with people behind the scenes. Brian Henson is the voice and chief puppeteer for Hoggle. It's all very much a giant Jim Henson character binge in Labyrinth. Prince of Photography begins April 15th, 1985 at Elstree Studios. So almost everything is on a set and not like green screen or anything, except one scene that is not aged well at all. We'll talk about it. It did not age well. Bowie and Connelly had some. First off, Bowie's not an actor, so Bowie comes into this, and he has trouble interacting with the puppets. He has trouble interacting with Connelly. And they basically they chalk it up to any like interviews they did as it's really challenging to work with these puppets, but by the end of the film, maybe it wasn't such a challenge. They were there and they were characters, which is what you have to say if you're working on a Jim Henson movie. Interesting side notes. Set of Goblin City was built on Stage 6 at Elstree, which is, one of the greatest sets in film history, right? It's a place where magic has happened on screen. Elliot Scott basically said building the forest, Sarah, and doing all of these things, on the way to Jareth's castle. Listen to this. Forest, 120 truckloads of tree branches, 120 turfs of grass, 850 pounds of leaves, 133 bags of linchin, and 35 bundles of mossy old man's beard. Lichen, sorry. Fuck. Damn you and your erudite commentary. Most filming was conducted at Elstree, small location shooting in England. It wraps 4 months later in September of 85. That seems like a long time, Rich.
Given the difficulties of the production just being, all
over the place
and stuff, that requires extra time to set up, extra time to block. Any little mechanical failure goes wrong with some of those. I'm sure some of the the hog head had animatronic motors to move a lot of that stuff in there when it was sitting on top of a little person walking around. It had to have, there had to have been, a lot of time lost to
a lot of bumps in the
mechanical failure.
Labyrinth, after the production ends, that's where some big things start to happen. Visual effects of Labyrinth are mostly achieved in camera, right? There are some notable exceptions that have to be discussed. Most prominent is the one we were just talking about. Two. There are two most prominent. There's an owl that's computer generated. That's at the beginning and end of the film. There's also the sequence with the the fire gang that was altered in post-production. Basically, it was filmed against black velvet to disguise the puppeteers. When they fixed it in post, they put a forest background behind it, and basically the shot never got the composite right. So when you watch it now, it looks like, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of like an HBO kids show from the 80s.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just
positive Connelly, full figure standing there, and
with the fire eaters, and as this,
yeah,
fire eater saying yes, soccer jocks. Also, that's where I know that voice from Red Dwarf. Yeah.
Two of the fireys were Danny John Jules, numbers 3 and 4. Not that they
also writes, same thing with the Dark Crystal. Revisited with our Dark 5 years ago. We found it boring. See, I think the Dark Crystal is better. So I think the Crystal has better adventure elements than this does. So I think the Dark Crystal works a little bit better. But we'll talk more. More post-production stuff, like just a fucking mess, Rich. Basically, editing got helped by George Lucas. Now, I love George Lucas. He created two of my favorite franchises of all time, Rich. But one cannot say that George Lucas is a master editor. And so Jim Henson got editing help from George Lucas, and as I was reading it today and going over this and watching the movie, Henson, like so George is the executive producer, comes in, he gets really heavily involved in doing the final cut. He wasn't working on anything, and after that,
he disappeared.
They're working.
Honestly, I'm not sure where. Ooh, excuse me. You okay there, buddy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, Lucas comes in, he works on whatever, and Henson and him kind of get into a fight. When you edit a film with somebody else, you have to compromise. I always want to go one way, and George goes another way, but we each took turns trading off, giving and taking. George tends to be very action-orientated, and he cuts dialogue quite tight. I tend to cut looser and go more for lyrical pauses, which can slow the story. In doing so, I loosen up his tightness, and he tightens my looseness. A disaster. This reads as a disaster. And then and you and I've seen a lot of movies, so when you read about these things behind the scenes, and if you don't know them behind the scenes, if Jim Henson and Lucas are fighting behind the scenes, and they're fighting over the edit, and they're fighting with each other, it can't help, in this case, but make the movie not work as well. So it's not, and I don't want to say that I read this and then came to my realization. I was coming to the realization, and then I read this and went, oh, that's why. That's why Labyrinth. Oh,
and sometimes attention can be really good and create something better. Sometimes not though. No, like you said, there's weird pacing to this. It just kind of moves along. And it's frustrating because it's so messy, but at the same time, it features so many interesting ideas.
Oh yeah, and there are great moments. There's great design.
Helping hands as they talk is like so cool. It's so creepy and weird. And
the door, I love the door that lies, which is essentially the Sphinx, right? Yeah. Like it's really great, and it's really inventive and imaginative, but everything's all over the place, and I would imagine the fans of the movie chalk it up to, they're really getting how messy it is going from being a young girl to a woman, right? You can tie all kinds of subtlety and kind of meaning to it, but it really seems it's really messy. Like it feels messy. It watches messy. And all of the whimsy I thought I remembered, like there are Bowie songs we should talk about in the production before we get to other things. Bowie has a bunch of songs in the thing. Underground, Magic Dance, Chilly Down, As the World Falls Down, and Within You. They're all pretty good songs, but they're basic Bowie. They're not. There's not anything that jumps out.
All I can say is I've seen I was lucky enough to see David Bowie in concert live twice.
I hate you. Why you got a name drop?
He did none of those songs in either show.
He didn't dress as the Goblin King?
No, he did not.
No, Ziggy Stardust, but no Goblin King. I see how it works.
Hey, as long as he played all the young dudes at the end of each performance, I was happy.
The story of this movie is how, and like I said, it's beautiful. Like he looks great. The puppets look great. Connelly looks great. The orbs are fantastic, really cool. I read about the guy that did the orbs was actually like a magician. The main character's Hoggle, and I'm sorry, I'm going up on what's his face. But everything, it looks great. Ludo, right? Ludo's pretty cool. It looks magnificent. Like there's never a moment where it doesn't look great, and the characters don't look cool. It just, I don't know. I can't explain it. I was watching it today, going, we should have picked something else. Like, and I didn't mean it like in a.
I said, man, sometimes these
are fascinating things.
Don't hold up, and that's fine.
So, theatrical release box office. It opens on June 27th, 1986, in a crowded. We talked about this. A crowded 1986 summer. 86 had Top Gun and Aliens, and just a very crowded summer, where you kind of look up and it was busy. And like I said, when it opens, like, I don't think people know what to do with it. It opens right around, if you think about it, it opens right around July 4th. And I can't think of a more or less involving movie to go see on July 4th. Opening weekend is $3.5 million against the budget of $25 million. It goes on to make $12 million domestically. Now, it will eventually get to the point where it makes a ton of money overseas, but that doesn't come in the form until after the holidays, when it hits the rest of the world. It only plays it opens on 1,100 screens. It never gets higher than the initial opening of 1,141. It plays an average of 4 weeks and is gone by the middle of July. So it literally kind of craps out, except for the take where it did 12 million in domestic, and then the rest of the world, Rich, it did 22 million. So it ends up with a box office of 34 million. And then adjusted for inflation, it would be adjusted for inflation, the domestic would be 38. So it's not great. And then I think it's like one of those things where it very much becomes a movie where you're finding it when you found it. Like, did you find it on video in like 87, 88, 89? You know what I mean? Critical response then and now. So I was looking at this. This is fun. This is one of the worst movies we've had on critically. 64% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics. We use it as an aggregate. We don't necessarily use it as like a be all end all, but it is a nice way to gather reviews for people we like. And the person who hated this movie the most, Rich, I was amazed, but also not amazed, because I know how he felt about it. He had a certain morality to him. But the person who hated, in all the reviews I looked through, 64 reviews, right? The person who hated this movie the most at the time was Gene Siskel. Gene Siskel hated this movie. And I mean hated. He Ebert said it's made with infinite care and pains. but he gives it 2 stars out of 4. Siskel says, it's awful, pathetic, much too complicated plot. The style that is being so chirped about is visually ugly, and such a violent plot, and the sight of a baby in peril is one of the sleaziest gimmicks a film can employ to gain our attention. But surprisingly, Jim Henson does it. He hated this movie, Rich. Hated it. Like, with red hot passion, 5 burning suns. Hate it. Almost like that review that I just read to you is almost reminiscent of any review he had of any horror film. Like, and somebody who hated horror films a lot, Gene Siskel. But so he really hated it. The reviews are mixed at best. You know, you have people saying basically things, you know, thrills enough for audiences of all ages. You have a couple people who throw out, you know, one person says, like Time Bandits, Labyrinth is sort of a child trying to negotiate a dreamlike world where logic is not all what it should be. You know, Wizard of Oz gets thrown around a little bit. A lot of Maurice Sendak gets thrown around a bit, like it's a live action version of a Maurice Sendak book, who, by the way, gets a huge thank you in the credits. Right? Thank you for the works of Maurice Sendak. So my review, I don't know how I feel anymore. I just think it's over substance. It's so thin. It's so wafer thin. You said before, the plot of Labyrinth is so wafer thin that it has to rely on Connelly to be charismatic and charming. It has to rely on Bowie to not only be Bowie, but be the Goblin King. And it's just not, there's nothing there for him to do. He looks great. But there's not a lot for him to do.
At one point, and that feels about it.
He's there to sing during the Escher. There are very creative segments. The Escher painting sequence where she's trying to track her child, the baby down on the steps, is great. The fire eater scene is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
overall, though, it's
having a charismatic lead, you know, in Bowie means nothing if you don't give him something to do to let him get away.
There's no danger to him.
And charismatic, yeah,
and there's no danger to the Goblin King. Like, the whole thing is, you have 13 hours. They put a timer on, right? You have 13 hours to get to the center of the labyrinth. Okay. We don't know what's going to happen when he gets to the center of the labyrinth. We don't know what. We know he's going to put as many obstacles in our way as possible. Great. But he's not dangerous enough to be charming, and he's not charming enough to be dangerous. And so it's flat. And then it kind of ends with it tries to do the Wizard of Oz thing, which is you were home all along. You know what I mean? Like, but to lesser effect. Yeah, well, and to a lesser effect. And it's like you had the power to go home the whole time with your shoes.
Yeah, I want to say, though, I do like the idea of, you know, most times these, like, I traveled to a fantasy world that might have been a dream and I had to say goodbye to friends I made there. That trope does get subverted right there at the end.
Yeah,
and,
it's a nice moment.
Always be here. You need us. Well, I need you. Okay, we're here. Boom. And then they have a party, which I think is kind of funny that they do that. I mean, it's still a wet, damp squib of an ending.
Well, and like I said, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, one of the more interesting things about it is it falls flat every chance it gets. It picks the flattest choice. And so I can look at it from a distance and go, it is imaginative. It is a triad fairy tales. It is, you know, Jim Henson with, you know, working with people he really loves. And I can also look at it and go, it's a mess of a movie that has developed a cult following that I don't think withstands when you rewatch it. Like, every once in a while, Rich, we have moments and movies like this on our show where it has cult status, we rewatch it and we go, magic's gone, baby. Magic's gone.
Yep.
And this is one of them. This is like, I remember I was so excited going into today. And then I came out of it today just going, oof.
Well, maybe this movie then becomes like the metaphor for itself, because the movie in a way is
it's a mess. Yeah.
When you grow up, magic goes away. You know.
Yeah, that's. I mean, but I think that's what's happening.
He has responsibility and as an adult, and that's to escape the magic.
Oh yeah, no. I think that's what's happening though. I think that's what happens with Labyrinth. I think what happens. Yeah. No, I think what happens with Labyrinth is that when it becomes whatever you need it to be when you saw it. Like if you're a young lady and you're watching it, like the idea of going like looking at babysitting your baby brother to looking at David Bowie's junk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Problematic. Like I don't know what I was feeling, but I was a little hot under the collar, right? And so maybe you saw it then, and maybe that was important. But like, I remember it being adventurous. I remember it being, I like the cool characters, and and Ludo's cool, and I love that, the fox that rides the dog, right? I remember all of the things I loved about it. But when I got there today, nothing was as exciting as it was the first time I saw it. And so it kind of, I didn't see it in theaters. So I'm going to say probably saw it 88, 89. So like 15.
Okay.
And I think one of the things, like for me, was when I was younger, watching movies, I would look at a movie and be able to critically have an eye towards it and be like, that is something special because of the love and the care that went into it. And there is a lot of love and care in it. There's a ton of love and care in it.
Oh, gotcha.
It's just that I don't think the love and care mesh together for an hour and 41 minutes. And it's real sloppy. And then, if you don't know anything about the movie and you go reading about it and you find out how sloppy it was, holy shit, does it take on a whole other thing? Like, Henson and Lucas fighting to me is like, imagine your childhood if like the Muppets and Luke Skywalker got into a rift. You know what I mean? Like, it just blows my mind. I think Connelly's fine. She does what she can. I don't think there's anything on the page. That's the other thing, as in the review of it that I'm giving you, whatever was in the original script was probably better than whatever was shot. Right?
Yeah. She's done better work before this. I think she's really good in the flashback sequences of Once Upon a Time in America, Sergio Leone's great crime saga.
She's fantastic in that. Yes. Absolutely spectacular in that movie.
So watching this performance here, which I felt was kind of flat and was just kind of like very...
I don't think there's anything there. There's nothing there for her. It wasn't...
And part of it's the dialogue.
In a lot of the reviews,
literally within 10, I watched like the first 10 minutes and I almost picked up my phone to text you to go, oh my God, the dialogue in this movie, woof. Because
it's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. And so I think she gets like what happened. And again, in some of the reviews, we're talking about critical response then and now. In some of the reviews, she's blamed wholeheartedly for dragging the movie down. And I would say to that, Labyrinth is dragged down by the script and by too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Right? Too many chefs, not enough sous chefs.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of it gets and Bowie, I think Bowie's gotten across. Bowie gets it's an iconic role for him because of how great he looks, but there is nothing past the look. and Bowie, there are times in the movie Bowie looks bored. What the fuck am I doing here? And again, I think he read the original script.
You and me both, David. You and me both.
Well, and I think that's how I felt today. And I think whatever the original script was, you should probably look for that so we can you and I can have like a late night discussion about what the difference is between the script and the shooting script. But again, I didn't know there was this many messes about this movie until today. And I would have told you that coming in, I was very excited to see a movie. And I'll give you an example. So as I was watching Labyrinth today, what I was looking for was what I got when I rewatched The Neverending Story with my nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I don't want to parse words here, but The Neverending Story made in 1984 and Labyrinth are usually on the same. The three movies from the 80s that are on the same fantasy plateau are Neverending Story, Labyrinth, and The Dark Crystal. I think Labyrinth is the worst of the three movies. And I think in looking at it, like I would put it Neverending Story, Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, and I would put Labyrinth like almost 2 or 3 slots lower. Just in hindsight tonight with me and you talking. And what and while The Neverending Story isn't perfect, there is an excitement to it that is not present here. There is a movement of forward of the plot, and it's only an hour and a half like this. And I just think Labyrinth gets by on Bowie and being an early movie for Jennifer Connelly and Jim Henson's Muppets.
I think there's a lot of imagination that people remember, and then they kind of forget that the skeleton that is all on is Ricky.
Right, and the way people talk in it is awful. Like it's like we're talking about the script, right? So, have you ever heard 2 parents talk to a child the way she gets talked to in this movie?
No.
And like it's just so synthetic.
Sort of like, yeah, that's kind of your point in this story here, honey. I'm sorry.
It's so synthetic. It's like last week we talked about Gina Davis eating the synthetic steak in The Fly. It just doesn't work, and I don't hate it. Because I can see beauty in the creativity, but it's definitely not on the same league as Dark Crystal or The Neverending Story, right? I don't know that. And again, I think they're considered to be on par, right? I think they're all considered to be Neverending Story, Dark Crystal, Labyrinth are all considered on the same plateau. I don't think they are at all.
No.
I think it's a 1A, and then D. Like it's down. Okay, before we move on to other stuff, some comments. Reasons to hate Rich 101. Yeah, but I don't hate him. I'm just jealous of him. Jealousy and hatred are very close.
Raven, you can hate me all you want. You will never hate me more than I hate myself. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, everything's good. David Bowie's huge. I don't think Prince would have had a bigger codpiece. I don't think
it would
Prince.
Have been it would have had like
a symbol on it. But I think Prince would have brought. Bowie looks bored. At some point in the movie, he looks like, I feel like my agent put me here and I shouldn't be here. And I think it's all a result of the script stuff we talked about.
Bowie, the actor, looks bored. Prince, playing the character, would have brought something.
It still would have been Prince. Right, there would have been something.
You want to talk?
I don't know that he could have done anything with it. Again, Connelly and Bowie have nothing to work with, is where I think I'm falling, right?
Yeah, no one could see the script, I don't think.
Neverending Story works. I didn't feel bored watching it. Where Labyrinth, I love the puppetry, but the story's so boring, which is sad because I really do love all this design of it. It looks beautiful. But it's inside of it is where the machinations of the negative. It's not a negative review. I don't hate the movie. I think it's gotten by on its reputation, and I don't think people who talk about it being such a huge classic have rewatched it recently, because it was a task to get through an hour and 41-minute movie today, which doesn't happen to me often. Usually we're watching much longer movies and I'm much more into them, and today I was like, I was drifting, buddy, and it was not like I was. I was excited when the fox showed up, and then he really doesn't do anything. Like I remember him fighting and doing stuff on that dog,
and
then nothing really happens. I was devastated.
It's oh my gosh, I am just piecing this together now. It's basically to give our female traveler
3 friends.
Trying to get 3 friends, like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. He's
the Tin Man of the group.
Yes, he's the actual knight. He's the actual knight of the group. Ludo's the one that's kind and has rock powers. Hoggle's the one that's conflicted, right? You know, because he might end up like in a stink swamp. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like Hoggle being threatened to be dropped in a stink swamp as opposed to just being murdered. Again, you're lessening Bowie's mystique. I'm just throwing it out there. Legacy franchise viability. Okay. So there is constant talk. And its track record on video is astounding, right? Jennifer Connelly told an interview, and David Bowie told interviewers, every Christmas a new group of children come and say, "Oh, you're the one who's in Labyrinth." David Bowie is getting talked to from children at the time, right? Jennifer Connelly got recognized for it. It became a cult film, right? It is good to know that Brian Henson often refers to that his dad knew how much of a cult following his imagination movies, this and The Dark Crystal, had before he passed, which I guess, we always worry about our artists not feeling appreciated. So I guess Brian Henson talking to his dad about how important these movies were to an entire generation is important. There are masquerade balls. There are adult masquerade balls that are done to the Labyrinth and Jareth masquerade balls. And it's been killing on the internet. They looked into making a sequel. The placeholder title was Curse of the Goblin King. They instead came up with trying to make something else. They went to Neil Gaiman. They went to McKeon to write a sequel. And that movie became Mirror Mask in 2005. So all of the times that they looked at the sequel for this, it ended up becoming spiritual sequels.
Yeah.
Which I think is...
I'm going to contradict you on something you said earlier.
God, love contradiction.
I say remake this movie. Remake it, because it's such a sloppy mess. We know what went wrong here. And those are the kind of movies we want to be remaking. I don't know if you can capture certain elements the innovative of the design and some of the whimsy and stuff, but man, there's a better script to be found here. And I would say, maybe take a crack at it.
It's not a contradiction. I don't know if it can be made though. I agree with you. We should be looking at possible ways to do it. Now, that being said, there are a lot of places where there have been sequels, right? So there's Archaea Entertainment that they were doing graphic novel. They've done graphic novels, a novelization, anime kind of stuff.
Some other Henson properties as well.
They also published something called Labyrinth Coronation, a 12-issue comic series written by Simon Spurrier and illustrated by Daniel Bayliss. It's a prequel how Jareth became a Goblin King. So there's a whole thing there. There's another project they just published in 2020 called Labyrinth Masquerade, a shot story set during the Masquerade dream sequence, which seems very specific. They're working on a stage adaptation. They think that a Broadway, they wanted to go to Broadway, but they feel it would be too expensive. And Brian Henson was essentially told that in April 2018. And then he said, well, maybe not Broadway. How about London's West End? which is a little bit cheaper and a good place for shows to get up on their feet and kind of find their way. But even at that point, it has not been done. They have talked about sequels. 2017, Fede Alvarez, who has had some fun playing in other people's sandboxes, signed on as director of the sequel. Lisa Henson was named as the producer. By October 2018, Alvarez confirmed the script is complete. 2020, Alvarez announced that he had stepped down as director. Scott Derrickson, known for directing Doctor Strange, was announced as the new director in May 2020. They worked on the script some more. Brian Henson was then set as the executive producer. Lisa Henson said she was going to produce.
Cargo was working on the script at that point too.
Yeah, and then February 21st, Connelly revealed in an interview that she'd been involved in conversations about a Labyrinth sequel, about something with her character and her children, which gives it a whole Hook vibe. October 23, Derrickson basically steps down and he goes to do other things. Even though he says it's hard for me to walk away from it, he walks away. Henson in 2024 confirms it's still in development. Sequel for Labyrinth still in development, despite all the setbacks, all the people who walked away, including Rich, the two directors I just mentioned, Fede Alvarez and Scott Derrickson, would be fantastic for a darker take on the material.
Oh, yeah.
They would be great.
Yeah, and Derrickson works a lot with the writer I just mentioned, C. Robert Cargill, who I listen to. He's on a podcast. I read his social stuff a lot. He definitely has the sensibility. I think he loves Muppets. He loves Jim Henson stuff, but he also loves darker edge stuff as well. And I think he would in collaboration with Derrickson would have really done something very interesting, special.
Well, yeah, and I like Fede Alvarez very much, and like I said, they both played in other people's sandboxes, so they understand the material and they understand the job of coming in and doing a follow-up to a beloved piece, right? Then this is where it gets batshit insane about franchise viability and legacy. December 2024, news breaks that Robert Eggers is working on a Labyrinth sequel that is being developed after his Nosferatu, and Eleanor Columbus and Lisa Henson are all confirmed to be producing, with Brian Henson executive producing. In that same report, Eggers' personal relationship with Alexander Skarsgård is basically stated that he's spoken to him about taking up the mantle of Jareth in the next version or iteration of the project. Again, a fascinating choice. Robert Eggers to do a Labyrinth sequel is an absolute banger of a choice. So maybe you get your wish. We get a little bit darker. We get a little bit edgier. But he still has love for the Henson property.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Alexander Skarsgård as Jareth that's about right. Eggers worked with him on The Northman. So I was reading those today, just absolutely bonkers, about like the three directors that get mentioned are these horror film directors that I really enjoy. And I think going a little darker, keeping the Henson and maybe adding a little bit of whimsy, a little dark energy, a little dark humor, a little Army of Darkness kind of humor. You know what I mean? Like something fun, and I was fascinated by the Eggers. Eggers basically stating that Labyrinth means the world to him because his original stuff is flying so high right. The only thing you get from taking on Labyrinth as Robert Eggers is a hassle. That's all you get. I'm being serious. That's all he gets, right? He's this guy that's made Nosferatu, did a big hit. He's doing a werewolf movie, right? He has The Lighthouse. He has, Northman. He has all these incredible, like,
the same a few years ago about Denis Villeneuve, and Denis Villeneuve is going to make a Dune movie. He likes the property. That's fine, but he's doing all this other great stuff. Why is he going to do it? Yeah. And then we've got some real freaking masterpieces out of it.
And like I said, that's why, again, all of the directors that Henson, Lisa Henson, and Brian Henson have looked at for a Labyrinth sequel or a Return to Labyrinth are all fascinating choices to me. Again, because it's like these guys that play in horror movie sandboxes. They're like, maybe they're young guys, so maybe their first reactions to things was a little bit this movie. You know what I mean? Like it's super cool. And like I said, I really hope maybe we get a Labyrinth sequel that you and I come out of on opening night and go, holy, they got it. They got it. But I don't know that that's ever going to happen. Comments before we get rid of tonight. Labyrinth sequel manga appears to be popular. It's very popular. Anything with David Bowie as a Goblin King is popular. All you have to do, Joe, is go to Hot Topic. Oh gods, and we thought Michael Jackson should be. Let's sign Neil Gaiman to this. Shaking my head. Oh no. Yeah, but again, we're at a different time, right? Gaiman at that point was the king of dark fantasy fiction. Now it's a problem, and that's where we're at right now. Love Henson definitely played a part in my own creative upbringing. Laugh out loud, always a Skarsgård. Laugh out loud. Oh, she's talking about Wicker, the Wicker movie. She's obsessed with the Wicker movie. You haven't? I don't know if you watched the show. The movie coming out with. Everybody's talking about it.
Yep, I'm looking forward to that because it's Olivia Colman, for God's sake, and wonderful.
Love Olivia Colman. She can never do. She does no wrong for me. Okay. Final things. Labyrinth, again, I think there's a lot of creative flourish, but in the end, it ends up being listless and messy, like it was behind the scenes. I wish this was better, but I do think legacy and franchise viability. I think it does have like potential. Like I think, and again, with the three directors we're talking about, Eggers, Derrickson, and Fede Alvarez, have all played in other people's sandboxes. So maybe Brian Henson and Lisa Henson find a way. Maybe they they polish off Terry Jones' original script, and kind of like play around with it. I don't know. But the script in this one was a mess. Rich, before we go, where can people find your stuff?
Well, that's a personal question. Oh, all of my writing can be found at filmbuffonline.com. We've got a Facebook page that lets you know when new stuff goes up, as well as some other, posts, mostly daily on film history and things like that nature. Or things of that nature. I can be found on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads as @FilmbuffRich. And that's about it.
So mine is JW Movie Guy on Facebook, X, or Twitter, or whatever the fuck the guy's calling it these days. Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. I'm on IMDb. We host a bunch of shows. We're the Indie Escape Network. We do live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, all of those places for the day after to listen to. And we have all our shows. Like and subscribe. It takes a little bit over 30 seconds to like and subscribe. If you like and see what you hear tonight, or if you like and you see and you hear in our clips or our comments, thank you for joining us tonight. We will be back next week. We're going. I don't know what we're going with next week. We don't know. It's going to be one of two movies. We'll let you know. It's either going to be Manhunter, or it's going to be One Crazy Summer. We don't know. I don't know. But I think we're leaning towards One Crazy Summer because maybe we can do Manhunter for October. Just saying. It's a horror movie. So thank you for joining us tonight. Everybody have a great week. We will be live on Friday, new release Friday. We'll be talking about Coyote versus Acme, Coyote versus Ugly. Coyote versus Acme. And I will also be talking about The Dog Stars, the new Ridley Scott movie starring Jacob Elordi and Margaret Qualley and Josh Brolin.
Try to get to it before then. So
thank you for joining us. We'll see everybody Friday. Last comment of the night, Rich. Night, boys. Night, Raven. See you tomorrow night. See you tomorrow night for Loud and Nerdy. Bye, everybody. Have a great night. Stay safe.